So Johan is together with us. He was also one of our panelists. So he says greetings. Wish you a nice panel. Thank you, Johan. So I opened the chat for a while. That while dear attendees, while you are joining in, you can write your messages while we are getting prepared. Okay.
Mustafa, may I conduct a little experiment since we're talking about technology?
Yes.
May I enter a tool on the chat box where people can collaborate? Now, the reason for the experiment is a colleague of mine recommended this as a large-scale solution for collaborating, where people don't have to sign in. You can just sign in as a guest and perhaps offer some notes during, and it'll be a grand experiment because I have no idea whether a large number of people can all participate.
So it's bcanvas.com. Okay, there is a link here. So dear participants, please open the chat section. Okay, this is only for those who are joining through Zoom. For the people on Facebook, you'll be watching. And so we click this and okay. Promoting experiential learning in the future.
So I just thought it would be a way to collect some notes together as people have ideas. So in the chat box, but
we can say continue as guest, right?
It's a very simple tool that just enter as a guest and you can make some notes and offer suggestions. There are 4 pages with some topics that I think are important for the future, but also have been mentioned by other panelists as well. So I thought it might be a fun way for us to brainstorm one of our favorite styles, Mustafa, that imagining style.
Yes, so exactly what we should do. So you can share your screen, okay, going to that web page, and you can a bit guide us, instruct us how we can use that platform.
I'd be happy to. Again, this is an experiment for all of us learners who are educators. And so while we're talking about different hopes for the future, learning, making the learning process explicit for individuals, learning to succeed together in our collaboration, creating new learning space in so many ways, and even coming up with new applications as we talk about those. If you can simply take a sticky note and put it on, or you can also add comments to someone else's or in any of the sections. And so just a simple way, those of you who know how to use collaboration tools, this is supposed to be a very easy one that hundreds of people can participate in together. So I thought since we are all learners and educators, it might be fun to experiment with something together. But again, this can be living in the background. So again, and if you can enter as a guest and just add your ideas and sticky notes, because one of the beautiful things that I think you're doing here, Mustafa, is showing the value of letting us experience the value of collaboration and how, I guess one of the foundational scholars that I love, Mary Parker Follett, would say that these are those circular responses in learning that are so important, these relationships, that we become different because of being with each other, and we're already different because of it. So
okay, thank you. Great. So dear participants, okay, so are we seeing how many people are here? Yeah. Okay, Ignor says there is no link in the chat. All right, let me see. Okay, so I'm just copying and sending this panelists and attendees again.
Oh, okay.
Now it's on the chat. Where to enter to see the slides? All right.
Yeah.
So this is in the chat section right now. So Kay, in the chat, there are two options. Either you can write only to panelists or panelists and attendees.
I see that. Yeah, I just
now it's there. Please go there and join. Yeah, now there are 8 people inside already. Great. Okay.
Well, mark away. Have fun.
Have fun. Okay. So during our conversation, is there any order? So are we going to guide them now? Go to that slide, or this will be an open space? They can type their comment anywhere.
Open space. Play around.
Play around.
I think some of those topics have come up in the future of experiential learning, and certainly they're very central to where we're placing our focus and what we hope our ideal vision of the future as well. So
definitely. Okay, I think this was a very good start. The panel, which the title is The Future of Experiential Learning. So now we already started not only talking but experiencing the future. So we have participants from really very different countries. Now I'm in Istanbul, dear friend, and Kay is connecting us from Cleveland, so USA. And we have participants from all over the world. And we can not only connect through seeing each other or writing, but with this collaboration tool, which you can see for the newcomers, or you can see in the chat section. Please go there. You can join as guest. Okay, I see that people are playing around. Cool.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm not going to keep it up, but I will. Yeah.
All right. So we can check this in the meantime, so we can see
what's
going on there. And also, okay, now we are like 43 people already, so it's increasing. People are joining.
Well, I'm impressed. At 4:30 in Istanbul and in Europe, that people are coming after a very busy 2 days. So
after very busy 2 days. This is also very surprising for me, to be honest. I mean, yes, we received a huge amount of registration, but as you know, statistics. So when it's virtual, somehow, so the registrant and there's a huge gap between the attendees. But in this Congress, every session is really very active. So I would like to thank to our participants, really. You are making this Congress real. Great. Okay, I think we can start, and let me give you some technical information to our participants before starting. So dear friends, especially our Turkish speaking friends, there is an interpretation button at the bottom bar. So if you click there and if you choose Turkish, you will be able to hear this session in Turkish in your own language. There's a simultaneous interpretation. So, and let me open this session to welcome dear Kay. She's, I mean, there are a lot of things to describe Kay, really, like lots of things we have to say, but I can say, you know, there are experiential learning advocates, innovators in the world, but she's one of the best ones. I mean, she's a real advocate, she's a real innovator, she's a real connector, I can say. So she has an institute, she's directing an institute, the Institute for Experiential Learning, which is doing great jobs, but as well as it's a kind of hub, a connecting point for different people in the world who are working on experiential learning. So we started our Congress with Alice and David, and I'm very happy that, so we are wrapping up to get together with Kay here. Kay, thank you very much. First of all, really, thank you. It's great that we are having you on this panel. So could you please welcome our participants, but also introduce yourself a bit?
Absolutely. Well, Mustafa, thank you so much for inviting me today. It's I'm really honored. You and I go back a lot of years, and in fact, since early in your journey. So it's really a pleasure to be here with you. Yes, I am so happy to know that there are people from all over the world. I must say I'm still wowed by the technology that can connect us, like it's connecting me this morning, you this afternoon, and I'm sure some of you in the evening. And it's really quite something. We do have the Institute for Experiential Learning located in Ohio, but we are a virtual organization, really with members around the world. We began the Institute for the purpose of really empowering others with experiential learning, understanding the process, and really spreading the word of David Kolb's work and making it real. So we feel like we're a bridge from theory and research to practice. We span the gamut of customers and clients that we serve, and really have one of our foundational programs is a program that we have with Alice and Dave and a number of other faculty members as a certification program. And Mustafa was in one of our first classes, and a couple other of your members have also been in classes of ours, but we also have a community of practice. But we started when Dave and Alice Kolb retired from Case Western Reserve University, and there was no longer a formal way to really absorb and embody and empower people with experiential learning. And so we continue as a faculty and an organization to grow with our learners. And in fact, we make that a central part of what it is we do. So it's a thrill to be with you and to actually collaborate on what it is we're all doing. And that's I think one of the lessons we can learn in the future is to do more. So
thank you.
It's a pleasure to have known Mustafa for a number of years and have been part of the journey of DEM and your network, and to really learn more about the similarities and differences with experiential learning throughout Europe and the Middle East, as well as the rest of the world.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Dear friends, in the chat section, I just shared the webpage of the Institute. So I strongly suggest you check it out. There are many informations you can find about the Institute, but as well as Kay said, the Institute, even it's in Cleveland, Ohio, it's everywhere actually. It's a virtual organization. So there are high quality learning programs you can find at the webpage. And one of this is a certification program, which I had the chance to attend and have that experience. It's an amazing experience. I mean, it's really an eye-opening experience, because I can say, as a person who is dealing with experiential learning for a long time, at certain point you can say, you can think, well, maybe I think I know pretty much about experiential learning, you know, but then when you continue the journey with people like Kay, of course, David, Alice, the other faculty members, then you are discovering how deep is experiential learning indeed. So it doesn't matter how much we know about experiential learning, still there is a huge part to discover, right, Kay? What do you think?
Well, I would say that's so true, and we constantly learn that. And because people come to the certification program with very different backgrounds, it's almost like we come with our preferences, like we do for using the learning cycle. And those are preferences perhaps, or things that we've been exposed to and we learn and stretch our muscles in. And there are parts perhaps we haven't even discovered. And so this is an opportunity for people to really see the scope and beauty and depth of experiential learning. And actually, we ask that you come as a learner as well as an educator. And so you start really from your own learning journey. And really, it's quite a special program, and we are constantly learning from it and learning together. So it's a really great experience for the faculty as well. Thank you.
And there are more actually, right? Okay. In this session, we are going to talk about the future. So we'll try to look at the future. In the first session, I asked the question to David and Alice, also Ike. She is monitoring also experiential learning in Turkey. And I said, is there any direction that you are seeing this recent studies, the researchers are tending? Is there any tendency? And all highlighted that online experiential learning, there is an increasing amount of research and study on that. Mm-hmm. And with this pandemic situation in all over the world, like we are also, I think that would come someday in the future, but I think we just speed up. So now all over the world, we are facing with this new challenge, how to create all these spaces online again. So it's not only how we're going to deliver the information online, but how we are going to make learning online. Mm-hmm. And I know that after this pandemic, as an institute, you started also to develop some programs on virtual learning, online learning, to develop capacities of educators. Could you please mention some of those programs?
Yes, absolutely. Well, just in general, Mustafa, I think that this has been a tremendous challenge, but also an opportunity. You know, my first role was actually as a nurse, and I can remember prevention was really hard to sell until something happened, and then people could muster resources. And I think in some ways that's happened with the pandemic. Nobody could have anticipated how quickly this change happened. And I think it's an amazing situation how we've all adapted in short order. But yes, we did respond to that and have, I think, learned a lot about some of the challenges that exist. And we've developed some programs to address them. First of all, I think one of the major things we've learned is in this online environment, there are so many different ways to be online. You know, there's virtual face-to-face like we're doing. There's asynchronous online. There is tech-enabled programs. So all these various things, it's really hard to talk about it just being one thing. But in general, I think one of the things we've learned is that you have to connect before content. It's kind of a guiding principle. And actually, we had some wonderful programs by one of our mutual colleagues, Romy Solomon, about engaging in the online environment and how the experience of being online matters. And certainly we know from the educator role profile that facilitation part of learning is so important from educators, but it connects us to our personal meaning. And there are ways of doing that in this environment as well, through discussion groups and like things we're doing right now. So I guess that would be one thing. Another program is that becoming an online experiential learning trainer that has been developed that I'd like to talk in more detail about. But this idea that experiential learning can happen in the virtual world. And we have wonderful opportunities to develop those innovative practices that will allow us to do it. In some ways, I think this COVID situation has exaggerated what's wrong with learning that is simply content delivery and information transfer in that one-way linear, because we see how disengaged people can be. And so bringing that experience in is really critical. So actually, Mustafa, we would love to offer a large group session to your community with Romy Solomon's program that is it's actually magical.
I'm sure it is. I know Romy. She's like our friend before everything, and then a colleague also. So she's a great trainer. She's from New York City, but actually she's living in Europe for a while, and she's doing great things. And I'm sure this program is amazing. So I can
perhaps talk to you if some of your groups would like to participate. But I think that it's a wonderful way of sharing knowledge and really speaking to the learning, developing programs that will speak to help learners get around the entire cycle, meeting them where they are, getting them around. And then I think another program that is really of interest and will help educators and really cutting edge is technology-enabled experiential learning, using technology in ways that allow us as educators to take work to scale, and also to support educators to let them understand how learners are learning, when they need to get involved, how to set up, group project and really help learners demonstrate learning through project-based learning and team-based projects, but all organized in a tech-enabled environment. So how about you? How are you using technology?
Oh, yes, Kay. Actually, in the beginning of this pandemic, I think everything started like January, February, right? It's, now I have a feeling like we have been living in these conditions for a long time. I think everybody has this feeling. But what I witnessed in the field, in my field, especially in civil society field, in training field, in corporate training field, I saw that there was a kind of rush. There was this crisis, and the reaction of our learning training field to this crisis was a bit. So I have seen a lot of like small programs, like, okay, let's play a game. We are making it fun. We are making it fun. Okay, we are making virtual, but we are playing games. So people just, but I understand this, I'm not criticizing, but this was a kind of first reaction of the field to the pandemic. This is my observation. But those times, many friends also came and say, hey, why we are not also organizing this, workshops, like virtual workshops, etc. And I said, hey guys, I understand, and these are valuable, but as an experiential educators, if we need to do something, we should be prepared for not the pandemic, but post-pandemic. Mm-hmm. Because we are going to have a new normal. So we should be aware of this. Many people are thinking that one day all this COVID gonna finish and we are going to turn back to December 19. But this will not be like that. Mm-hmm. So many things change, and this will continue in that way. For example, schools right now, they are blended. They are hybrids. Also, non-formal education settings, they are also blended. And after the pandemic, this will continue in that way as well. So that's why I think we need a more structured framework to help other institutions, educators, to put experiential learning in virtual learning. And that's why from September on, as DEM, our NGO, we started to work on a learning platform. It's in Turkish right now, but hopefully we are going to move this to English. But I can just share a few things about that, just to give an idea to our attendees, because the reason is, as experiential educators, we are criticizing this traditional education as one-way information delivery, as Paulo Freire criticizes with the words, with this famous term, banking model of education. Mm-hmm. And with this pandemic, I'm always asking this question: now are we transforming to digital banking of education? So this, I think, we should be really aware. That's why making something really interactive or fun doesn't mean that it's not banking. So that's why it's not only, I think, delivery techniques. Delivery techniques are, of course, important and valuable. We educators, we need to use technology and we need to make it interactive. That's in the pocket. But on the other hand, how we are going to open that learning space virtually as we are doing in physical trainings. That's why we developed Demland. So Demland is a learning platform, just a quick snapshot for people. So this is a social learning website. It's in Turkish, as you can see. So this is like a social learning. It's like a Facebook. There is a wall here. You have a profile, and we have a currency, Dema. Everything is gamified here. So whatever you do, like you learn more, you do your assignments, and you are earning money, but also you are spending your money. And we designed, it's not only a web page, we designed a concept. This is like a country. So we call it the learners country, the country of learners. So here, as you can see, so this is our, for example, training for trainers islands. So in this island, you can really zoom in. So there are journeys. So we designed learning as a journey. So this big tree actually is a course. This garden is actually a course, you know. So from one course, they're going to other courses. These campfires are our Zoom meetings. So in between, we are meeting at Zoom. So why I said this, because this moves the story to an upper level of a bigger space where learning and information is not only the content that trainer is delivering during the training program, but in this kind of platform, participants are also generating their own knowledge, and they are sharing here together with other participants. So I just wanted to share this as an idea, not to introduce the webpage, but as an idea. I think as an educators, we should think about this space issue, as Alice emphasized yesterday morning.
Yeah.
So with this webpage, we tried to formalize this space, and I think it's going very well. I mean, the user experience are telling us that it's working.
I couldn't agree with you more about the space, because I think we will never return to previous state. I think in some ways the learning cycle informs us how to deal with those dilemmas that we're facing, that we will now move to something that is both in person and virtual. We'll be, we'll be learning individually, we'll be learning together. I think we as educators will need to be learners. And learners will be educators for us. And so this whole exchange we need to take care of that in the learning space that we set up as well.
Definitely.
And I think it's giving us, again, like, I think in some ways we were stuck or struck by what happened, and we can awaken to these possibilities of creating new experiences. So see how that's spawning innovation and sparking some new ways of looking that we might not have done. So in that way, it's very exciting, some of the possibilities. But.
Yes, definitely. This is very important, Kay, what you said, this philosophy side of experiential learning, you know, so being educator and being learner at the same time. So sharing this space. And what is our duty as educators or organizations? Opening that space. Otherwise, when we say online experiential learning or virtual experiential learning, now everybody's talking about this regarding to future of experiential learning or future of education. But this experience, not necessarily that a game you are playing together when you are Zoom or in breakout rooms. This is also very valuable. We should find ways to put interactive learning methodologies online. But on the other hand, I think, we were always very critic about this formal education is disconnected with the real life. So everything is happening in the classroom, and there is no connection with the real life. So I think experiential learning, we should somehow, even it's virtual, we should bring the experience of the learners, real life experience of the learners to virtual platforms. And this is what you are talking about, this project-based learning and team learning, right? So we should think on this more.
Well, I also think that even before we get there, that there is something about this, when we really can embody experiential learning as individuals and understand the process of learning, our approach to it, and how we can continue to develop in any situation. I mean, we're learning now, right? As we are even having this discussion. And when we can create that space together, just as individuals, I think that can have a huge impact. And that's something I'm so curious about, actually, as I face the future, are creating those learning relationships that really are key to everything else that happens after that. But somehow I think that sets the condition that is so, so critical for learning. We talk about, learning space as psychological space and all the wonderful work that Alice Kolb has done on learning space. Your work actually on learning space too, Mustafa, and this curiosity about how we set those conditions. And we may do it differently in virtual settings, but we do still need to do it. And yeah.
Definitely.
When people, I do think also someone mentioned earlier in the week about people understanding the process of learning. And I think that's a future key of learning, that we help individuals understand the process and their approach to using it. But how you learn is how you live, and all of life comes into learning. We are learning all the time. And setting that space between us and being that, really having that way of being in the world, I think that we can have a huge impact. All of us on this call, all of us at the Congress, if we can simply take that out into the world, I think it's a very important contribution.
It's beautiful that you're underlining this becoming a learner for becoming an educator. So if we are going to support the learning process of other people, first we should get this experiential learning in. We should develop our own learning identity, right? So I think it's very good time that I have to show this. It's very good timing, right? So dear participants, so if you haven't read this book, I mean, this is a must-read book by Kay and David. How you learn is how you live. Actually, this book takes experiential learning to a very individual ground, that not only educators, I mean, in our personal life, when we are dealing with our relationship or in job place, in our family, in our daily life, how we can use experiential learning and learning cycle to become more powerful and benefit from different learning styles. And I think when we are talking about the future of experiential learning, so definitely we should consider this different learning styles, right? So how we can open spaces in digital world to all these different learning styles. So what do you think? Are there any challenges for some learning styles, or opening space for some learning styles in virtual environments?
Oh, well, maybe I can ask you from a personal, what has been your experience? Because I know your learning style, Mustafa.
Yeah, my learning style is imagining. Yeah. Kay, I think you were...
I'm actually Northern as well. But again, let's remember though, as Dave and Alice said, learning styles are simply a way of using the learning cycle, our comfort zone, just in habitual automatic behavior. And all of us use all of those styles of learning to get around the entire cycle. And we can help each other do that too. So, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, we always saying when we are introducing these learning styles, actually we have all the styles, but we have dominant styles among them. And we have some styles they are waiting there for our discovery. Maybe we haven't met with them yet. So that's why experiential learning is beautiful. Last year, Kay, by the way, dear friends, Kay and Institute, they're organizing experiential learning conference every year. But I think this year, because of the pandemic, it didn't happen. So last year...
It will this year though.
Last year, so I was also there in Cleveland, again, had this chance to be part of this conference. And there, I don't remember one word that was recorded in my brain after that conference. Experiential learning is not learning by doing. Do you remember? So we were talking, experiential learning is not learning by doing. Experiential learning is learning by feeling, reflecting, thinking, and doing, acting. So actually it covers a lot. But I think we need to also clarify in the field this misunderstanding of every time doing. So
Mustafa, I think that is actually a very profound point. And although everyone on the conference here is aware of that, I think that misinterpretation, but when you look at the research on experiential learning, it's under so many different headings of project-based learning, outdoor education, internships, so many things. And many of those things have been thought about by doing. And having experiences and in the practical world. Mm-hmm. But if we don't reflect and conceptualize about those and get some feedback and then iterate that cycle, there may not be learning. It may just be doing and experiencing and then doing it again and experiencing and doing it again. Yeah, so.
I agree with you. I think like our participants and also many other speakers underlined this important detail, but I think it's worth to say it, to be recorded on this session, that people are gonna later watch this video. Hopefully we can clarify more. By the way, dear participants, so there is a Q&A button. We would like to also invite you to the discussion. There is chat function is open. We are not closing it. Also the Q&A button. Please ask your questions, because we will not do like, we're gonna talk with Kay and at the end there will be Q&As, but we will do it all together. As you are witnessing, there is no very tight structure. It's a natural conversational space with Kay. That's why we want you to shape also this session. So there is one question from Dennis. You can also read, Kay. So, hello, Mrs. Peterson. Are there experiential learning studies for the professional development of special education teachers? I would be grateful if you share your information on this subject. Thank you, she asked.
I know that there are studies. When you say special education, meaning special needs and special learning needs. First of all, I would encourage, as I know Dave and Alice talked about, the wonderful bibliography on their site that addresses many, many specialized fields. And in fact, I think this is one of the cutting edges of experiential learning, is to investigate it in different applications. So while I'm not aware of any specific study, I know that there are studies with in different subsets of education. And so I can imagine that because experiential learning speaks to individualization in the way we approach learning, I can imagine that it could be an extremely profound experience. One thing that actually comes to mind are studies done with equine learning and with special needs children. So I would encourage those, and I can find those studies for you as well. So those are very important experiences, I think.
Thank you. I just added this
oh, good.
Bibliographies link to the chat section.
Oh, and Jovan knows Case Western Reserve and the people working there. That is my alma mater, Jovan, and in fact, where I met Dave and Alice Kolb many years ago. But I actually went back to the organization development program there for a very special purpose. Actually, I was working in large-scale change in healthcare, and I went back because I thought healthcare had become so specialized with technology and outcomes and performance research that they were forgetting about the humanity and the experience of patients. So I went back for really to study emotional intelligence. And I walked into Dave and Alice's class, and I can remember it was like someone turned the lights on for me, that just, it made everything in life make sense. And I thought it was the most holistic, beautiful view of, true systems thinking at the individual, team, and every level of system. And so, yeah, Case has wonderful thinkers, and it was a great experience there. And so, Mustafa, you also mentioned teams, and I've heard that a couple of things. I've heard the panel discussion earlier, and I'm so impressed by your network of training centers and how that, I think, can be such a powerful form of distributing this knowledge and this process of learning to young people and to communities in a way that empowers them to become critical thinkers and citizens and change agents and innovators. So on all those levels, and I know that organizations here and I think around the world are really looking at learning as being a wraparound skill that they expect everyone to understand, although I'm not that it's ever quite as defined as we define it in experiential learning. But also teamwork is now the #1 skill that organizations are looking for. And I think we all understand the importance and how impactful it can be to be on a team where learning and development occurs, and how we have to learn to do that together.
Hey, thank you for passing the team content, because I want to take this future of experiential learning topic a bit also outside of this digital world. Of course, future, we should consider technology, this virtual post-pandemic processes, but also future of experiential learning is not only about technology, it's also about implementation of experiential learning in different contexts, right? So when we say experiential learning, usually education comes in mind. But as you said, experiential learning is a powerful pattern, is a powerful framework that you can apply to different settings, and teamwork, team development is one of this. Do you think that in the future, in team development, experiential learning will be used more, will be understood more? And meanwhile, could you please mention about this team learning? Because this is a recent work that I know you're doing with David and Alice.
Yeah, well, yes, it's an area we're very excited about. Sometimes experiential learning in the real world can seem like a very abstract notion. When we apply it to teams, it seems that it's a very concrete application. We're all on teams. We all work in groups. We're in families where, we are in work groups. And so we all know what it's like to work together. Sometimes that works better than others. And actually, all work of a team or a group when we're working in collaboration is actually learning. We go through a phase of creating what it is we're going to do and identifying that purpose, of planning and gathering information, of making decisions, and then of implementing those decisions. And if we can do that in a very intentional way, sharing a process of learning, understanding the people involved in that learning. Actually, I have a couple slides. May I share them with you?
Please.
For team learning. Okay, this might be kind of fun for people. It makes it a little bit more concrete, but we have created a team learning report that actually, let me just come here, that actually makes learning explicit and creates a team learning cycle. And what we have done is to identify 9 steps in the team learning process that are general steps that we can agree to. And we've created a report that identifies the shared process, identifies people's profile for where their strengths will be in that process, puts people through an exercise of negotiating a shared purpose, because there's often a very implicit understanding of a purpose for the team. And when we can make that explicit, just like our process of learning, it really becomes powerful. And then also to identify the culture and space that we'll use to work together. And again, this is building that space Mustafa, that we know is so important in learning. Psychological safety that we know is a precursor to for learning to happen. And then also how we can communicate and connect. And so this report automatically identifies learning styles for the team, as well as learning flexibility profiles. So we know, again, these are not traits. These are simply comfort zones where one might take leadership. So it's a model of really how to share leadership as well. And then we have wonderful discussions about what the team profile might mean in terms of a diverse team, or maybe a team that is very specialized in their style. And we talk about the impact that can make and what adjustments a team might do. So Mustafa, if you and I were team members only on a team, we would have to, because we're both Northern, we have Northern preferences, I would be right up in here. And so we would we would probably need people. We would either need to pay attention to our process to get all around the cycle very carefully, and we'd benefit by having other people on our team. Maybe Ilka would be a great team member, and others who might lead us more toward action. And
we can put Volkan. Volkan is Northern but Western Northern, so he's an initiator.
I remember that. There's Volkan. Yes, how nice. I saw Volkan earlier this morning on the So you can see though this team, which would be like many business teams, honestly, that would go right to making a judgment, not perhaps thinking about other possibilities and what might happen, or even perhaps paying attention to relationships on the team. So those are some of the wonderful conversations that can result from you.
Little part of all this team learning concept. When I first saw it, I was amazed. I said, yes, that's it. This is what we need. We need to see different interpretations of experiential learning out of education as well, because learning is not only in education setting, learning is in life. That's why we need frameworks to understand experiential learning in teams, in different settings. And after this team learning, so we did the same in our team, in our office. So I'm Northern East, so I'm an imagining style. So for our participant, if for you to understand, okay, is it, I don't know if it's, so I'm imagining, so I'm here. So as you can see, Volkan is here. So, and we are both sharing emotions here. So really, we are very emotional in our job and we are so dedicated. But our dialectic is, he says, let's go. And I say, 1 second, so.
Hold on, not so bad.
Hold on, let's reflect a bit more. But what we noticed, Kay, we are always creating and trying to somehow initiate, but trying to produce more. Then Alp is our colleague. He was leading the panel yesterday about experiential learning in corporate. He's a real decider,
Oh, that's not surprising there.
Once he joined our team, everything changed. Oh my God. I mean, everything changed. We started moving. It's like, it's a car, it's a great car, but it's not going. But then you notice that, you should fix this part and then car is going. So that's why this team learning is really eye-opening for many institutions. And it's not only business setting, dear friends. Let's not misunderstand. For example, in education setting as well, teachers or trainers in an institute, they are working in teams. So it's a team collaboration. There also, this team learning helps us a lot.
Oh, most definitely. It's interesting, but yesterday you talked about the fact that sometimes in educational programs, it can be hard to move to action. Like sometimes we run out of time or we don't quite make it around the cycle. And I think that speaks to preferences too, educator preferences. We have to always understand that we are coming into all of these situations as learners with our preferences. We are probably more focused on certain things And if it's running beneath the surface of our awareness, it doesn't come out. Just like what you're saying, we kind of ignore it, or we don't get to it, or and when we can be aware of it and perhaps partner with people who have different strengths than we do, it can be incredibly powerful. Your example of imagining and deciding, I think, is that great tension.
But
and
power.
Northern and Southern. So you had it all there. And I was just talking to someone this week who actually has a this quite imagining style, but he's been highly successful in business and now is in academia, returning to another career. And I asked him, I said, how did you build your capabilities in converging or deciding to leverage your ability to diverge or imagine and, and be in that northern space? And he said, honestly, when I was in business, I didn't have the luxury of not converging. And so that, I think, speaks to the space we're in also, that we also need context. We have to be aware of our context and how we are using our styles as well.
It's about being stuck or being struck again, right?
Right.
Have you seen what Volkan wrote, Kay? Dear, in the chat section, dear Kay, I'm ready to be thinking style for being in the same team with you.
Oh, Volkan, thank you. I knew I loved you.
To be honest, I cannot imagine, as an imagining style, I cannot imagine a Volkan with thinking style, but thank you, Volkan, for your kindness.
Volkan, you are always welcome. One of the, I think, very exciting initiatives we have in the works that we'll be launching, and in fact, you are all welcome to participate in this. We are developing a program to build flexibility. So playing on flex. So the program will be flex, and it'll be developing your 9 styles of learning. So taking the work of, understanding the process, understanding where we come into the process, understanding our current, as you said, repertoire of learning, developed repertoire, but also how we can develop those parts of us, those parts of teams, those parts of communities, organizations and communities even, to be able to flex. And so, Mustafa, I would love to make available to you, through you and your organization, we are launching a team pilot to really gather some data. One of the things that I think is also in our future is really understanding how to evaluate experiential learning a little bit more carefully, understanding that this is not done like we evaluate declarative knowledge, or, and we understand it's also performance learning and development that we want to evaluate, but we'd like to develop a little experience with fellow learners on the team learning process. And so we'd love for you to participate if anyone would like to be in the pilot and learn with us. So an extension, Mustafa and Volkan, what we did at our community of practice meeting through the Institute for Experiential Learning in Cleveland. So may I send out through you,
Yes.
Actually I'll put my,
okay.
and if anyone is interested.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. We definitely would love to be in. And you can send it to me and I can disseminate.
Good. We'll do that.
Meanwhile, I'm just checking Q&A part. So we have a couple of questions. Emine Bilge she asked in Turkish, but I'm going to translate. It's also about this special.
Please do translate. I wish my Turkish was as great as your English. I'm sorry.
When you come to Istanbul, we will work on your Turkish.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay.
So she asks about what we can do about this special need education, but I think we already mentioned this topic. So I just shared a link in the chat section. If you go back, there is a research library of Alice and David. So there you can really find selected publications and articles and research on different topics of experiential learning, and I'm sure you can find it. But also, please feel free to contact us that we can further, cooperate and communicate about that topic.
Yeah, and also,
pardon. Yeah.
Look in the wonderful research on equine and experiential learning too, because I think there's some carryover there that could be very interesting. Karen Stock did some great work. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe meanwhile, can you write her name in the chat section?
I'll send the article to you.
Great. Okay. So Ignor has a question. Hello, I would like to address my question to both you, outstanding conductor of experiential learning theory. Thank you, Ignor. About the team learning process, what could be your suggestion to a non-formal educator to create a common learning space for all types of learners? All right. So I think this question is like how we can characterize the learning space to welcome all learning styles.
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, I think one of the big messages of experiential learning is that we all need each other, as we've just described. And I think understanding styles really helps us appreciate our own strengths and challenges and the strengths and challenges of others. So I think creating that hospitable space that, in reality, when we start working, I think there are some interesting challenges. Again, these are the dilemmas that are touched on in the learning cycle. There are dilemmas of relationship and task. There are dilemmas of time, the time pressure, kind of taking our time and reflecting and getting things done. There is context and content. There is this idea of opening and including, as well as deciding and converging and choosing. And so I think having an understanding that we may all hold preferences for parts of those dilemmas and tensions, and we needed them all. And so there is value in the tension. It actually keeps things moving. So that would be one approach. Mustafa, what?
Okay, definitely. I can just add, I think this understanding which Kay expressed should be built among participants. I mean, not only as a trainer. Because usually we as the trainers, educators, we're thinking that, okay, we are the architects. Actually, indeed, we are, that we are designing and building the space. But this is not our own duty. Like, it's not a kind of, we're building a product and we're going to show it to them and to see if it's going to work or not. Rather, we should invite them into this space to build this space together. And for this, I think, first, we should create the common language, common understanding, and common culture. That's why experiential learning is a great language. I'm also calling this as a language, is a great language. With this language, we are communicating, learners can communicate with each other. It's a very metacognitive language. So I think I would suggest, Ignor, that whatever Kay said, this should not be in only educators' mind, but also we should talk this together with the learners. Özcan Kars, Kay, he's from Ankara, Dr. Kars. He has a question in Turkish, but let me briefly formulate and translate into English. Okay. All right.
I'm getting all of the questions here. Maybe not the Turkish. So
yeah, you can't see the question. Well, anyway, it's in Turkish, so I'm going to translate. He says, what is the role of senior, like experienced people in experiential learning process? For example, he said, on the other way of saying, for example, in experiential learning, we are talking about only the experience of the learners, or how can we include the experience of experienced people, like senior people? take this experience in the experiential learning process?
Yeah, so a couple things come to mind. So right then I was experiencing the tension of the cycle, thinking about the experience of the experienced and also their content knowledge. So, so I think certainly the learning cycle would inform us that we have experiences when we're with people and hearing about their experiences. We have learn reflectively by watching people as role models and understanding what how they operate in the world. So in that way, I could see how experienced educators, but also experienced learners can be role models for us. And in learning, I think there's a great deal of vulnerability, saying, I don't really know that, or I haven't been in this experience, or that didn't work so well for me. So those are, I think, all what ways to role model. I think in experiential learning online, we no longer have to be actually the content experts. We can be curators of content as well. And so we can bring in content of others. And then creating, if we have had great experiences, we can replicate or renew or contextually share those types of experiences that will allow others to experience and reflect and draw their own conclusions on those kinds of experiences. So I may not have exactly understood the question.
No, I think you answered. So actually, I would answer in the same way, because experience of other people, yes, it's really valuable, because I know this from youth works. You know, I'm a youth worker, so we are working in a different age groups of young people, and many times, you know, of course, they need to experience. It's very okay. They need to experience. Your experience is important as a youth worker in front of them as a role model. But at the end, they need to experience. But for experiencing, it's not easy to take that step. You need a trigger. You need a motivator. You know, in Alice and David's book, this experiential educator, when they're explaining this learning spaces, they say everything is started with attention, interest, and then beliefs. So we need to take the attention first of all, the attention of learners. And your experience in this case can both take attention of the learners, but on the other hand, it can create a kind of interest of, wow, it's a great experience. What if I experience this as well? So this is very valuable. I think we should include seniors, like experienced people, in that topic, whatever the topic is, in the learning process. But this should not, how to say, I think we should add this as well, limit. It should not be a barrier. It should be only a supporter behind, but the real focus should be still learners' experience, I can say.
Well, and it's not that what we already know isn't important, but this is also a model for new knowledge and creating new knowledge. And we are all existing in different contexts. And so I think that, you know, bringing knowledge from one context into another is a role that we can all play as well. So, you know, Mustafa, you also mentioned something that's kind of that's really top of mind for me these days in educator preferences, but also this role of educators being learners and not judges, to really catch ourselves as educators, or, you know, just in whatever educator role we're in, that not, we are quick to judge. We are very quick to judge. And sometimes I think it is beneath our conscious awareness, and bringing up those questions, I think, in our internal dialogue can really help us in our own internal development, our maturity and development as people, because this is a model of development as well. And this integration is something that has always just been so inspiring to me.
Definitely. I'm always giving this example in our programs. I say, for example, you are delivering a training program on project management, and imagine you haven't managed any project yet. Is it possible? No, of course. I mean, you should have knowledge and experience. You should have a background. Huh? So you should have own competences, first of all, about project management. Then you can deliver this. And I say to our educators again, imagine you are not a good learner. Imagine that, you know, you just judge quickly. You have, I mean, this, you are in your comfort zone in the learning styles, and you're not flexing, you're not open force flexing. How you are going to deliver learning to our learners, you know? So first of all, we should work on ourselves, as you said. We should build this learner identity, and then educator identity comes later on. And not, okay, as you can see, Nadaraja, I hope if I say your name correct, Nadaraja. Our participant asked a question, but I think it didn't finish somehow. Nadaraja, can you please like type it again, because it seems here that it's not complete. I think she's sharing her opinion about wording, not to use training in something. But yeah, if you can paste this again, or even there is a character limitation there, you can use the chat so we can understand you better. Dennis asks, the world is in pandemic period. Many trainings are now held online. This form of education has some limitations, especially in terms of experiential learning. At this point, what would be your suggestions for people working with experiential learning methodology to work with educational technology experts? This situation requires the cooperation of many different disciplines. What do you think about it? Thank you. I think we talk about that, but there is a difference that I think we didn't touch. This is about cooperation with technology experts. Like, it's not only educators who are developing their technology competences, but cooperating with technology experts, to work with technology experts. Because I think we didn't have to cooperate with technology experts that much before.
No.
What do you think, Kay? I haven't thought about this question. So this will be just a cooperation, or somehow we should also establish this common language with those experts as well?
Well, certainly. Yes, I mean, we are all going to have to learn different languages. We are forced into the world of technology, that's for sure, and cooperating to understand how technology can support experiential learning, rather than trying to just fit in to what it is that exists now, I think can be an important part of our future. Certainly, there are ways of using technology in wonderful technology-enabled programs. And in fact, in some ways, Mustafa, and is it Dennis?
Dennis, yes.
Dennis. I think that technology can support some of our less preferred educator roles in some ways. So, for instance, my probably least developed educator role is that of evaluator. But in reality, the technology can support much more evaluation in a program, frequently placed in where I might not do that in a live program. And I can create that technology that really scaffolds. I also think that, it creates feedback from a variety of people. With technology, we can bring in people that it might not have been practical to bring in to a conversation to give learners feedback, industry experts, coaches or mentors, community members, not just the educator in the room or on Zoom. So in that way, I think technology can really support us. technology in an expert role, for instance. We can curate materials and bring it in from YouTube or from interviews or podcasts or things that, again, we might not have brought into a face-to-face learning situation. So what about you, Mustafa? What comes to mind for you?
Well, I think, yes, we need to cooperate with technology experts more and technology more. As you said, it's really supportive. As you know, I'm quite good with technology. If you compare me with Volkan, I can say but of course, still, there are a lot of things that we are learning. Technology is rapidly increasing. I mean, it's impossible to learn everything. At that point, definitely we need support, because our main role, educators, we can't be as expert as technology experts. Mm-hmm. Just here, I can refer to the beginning of this conversation about team learning. So now I think as educators, we need to establish team and team learning with different disciplines. So there also experiential learning can give us the chance to create a common language and common culture to cooperate. Otherwise, the technology experts are only service providers, like solution providers, but then they don't really understand what you are trying to do, and you are not sure really, are you telling them, are you explaining them enough, transferring what is in your mind, because these are different languages. First of all, we should establish the same language. Then I'm sure the technology experts can bring us bigger opportunities, like bigger solutions that we can imagine, because this is their expertise.
Well, also, technology is part of our world, and we actually can be part of helping learners learn about technology that they will need to use in the real world. The truth is, most of the things that we do, teamwork, project management, you mentioned, working on projects, working on complex issues, if you uncouple the very complex individual competencies that are involved in any one of those endeavors, it can be quite overwhelming. But I think actually experiential learning provides a model for how to do that, to understand from an individual level. Again, I would probably map technology down in that abstract section of the learning cycle. And so it's a both and. We need to be able to integrate it and to know how to use it to our advantage, to our end. So.
Well, I'm just checking the time,
Oh my God.
It's amazing, it's, oh my God. Yeah. I feel that it's been only 10 minutes, but it's almost 1 hour. We have like 2 minutes more, but Kay, is it okay to have 5 more minutes? Because.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to have time to say what a pleasure it's been to be here with you, Mustafa, and to talk about these things with you.
So Nadaraja, I think our participant put the other part of the question. I think it's a comment and
about training.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce.
I think there are some strong feelings, and I would maybe offer again that maybe it's not an either or, but we know that even the language of educators has been, I think, expanded as we've looked at the educator role profile and looking at the roles that we play as educators. And when Alice and Dave and Angie Passarelli and Garima Sharma developed the educator role profile, they looked at the facilitator role, the expert role, the evaluator role, and also the role of a coach. And so those roles, I think, are all encompassed in our roles as educators or non-formal educators. Language may change, but I think that
also cultural. No, okay, I can say. So I'm not sure where Nadaraja is. I think she's in one comment. I saw she's from Australia, maybe. But for example, in Europe, in non-formal education field, it's a very common word we use in training. We don't say education. Even it is non-formal education, we are using the term training, but maybe in some part of the world, training is used for different things. I think this is also localizing these languages, but also it's beautiful to know that there's different cultural perspectives.
Absolutely. But see, I think us having that connecting theory and model and understanding is so important to get past that. And I see Jovan has a question about applying experiential learning in healthcare.
Yes.
Oh, I think this is one of the absolutely burgeoning. These are my roots.
Yes,
and
I know.
I actually see so much opportunity. And Jovan, please connect through Mustafa, can connect us, and Mustafa be part of the conversation.
I'll introduce you to each other. Yeah.
Well, and please be part of the conversation with us, because I think we have some really interesting work going on in this area. I think from many perspectives, from provider perspective, from patient, or personal perspective of keeping ourselves well. And some of these issues have come out, I think, during this pandemic. But we see some great excitement in this area. So I would love to connect with you on this. So
I'm just going to questions very quickly. Okay, Emine asked again our participant who said about this special need education. So she's adding another question. What about like inclusive education? I mean, I think I can answer this, because I would I don't know if you participated yesterday morning when we are opening with David, Alice, and Ilke and me. There, when we are talking about this future of experiential learning, or what do you suggest us to David? I would like to remind his statement about we should go back. I mean, yes, it's Kolb, and they did, like, they're really transmitters, like a great transmitters of all these foundational scholars of experiential learning, and they are producing new frameworks, like new sides of the theory. But I think if you go in experiential learning, then somehow it's not something that there is a key there, you will go and find it. But being in that journey is changing all your approaches and give you a new side as an educator. There you feel already empowered, and you have new methodologies and new ways in your hand to work with your target group. And for inclusive education, especially, experiential learning is a great framework, because this is all about inclusive, education. I mean, so covering all different types of learning styles and learning ways. So that's why I suggest you to go a bit deeper to experiential learning theory. For this, David and Alice, their recent book, The Experiential Educator. By the way, let me share the good news here with our participant. We just translated that book into Turkish, and we are about to finish the proofreading. And soon we are going to also publish in Turkish here, but you can find it at Amazon. Also, I think the Institute webpage, I think they can find that book, right? Okay. So I suggest that book, Emine, for other participants to get more information about experiential learning.
And the other thing is, I think in these, I know we're working with creating organizations that are more inclusive. I think learning is the key. I don't think we have all the answers for how to address these very complex problems that continue to come up. They're not problems, they're dilemmas for us to manage over time. And they continue to become, we have to continue to adjust and continue to spiral around the cycle together. So I think approaching some of these very complex issues as dilemmas that we have to learn to manage together is also another approach. Maybe that's research that you will do also, that you will focus on in special needs and in creating.
And then this research will go to Kolb's bibliography, then people
right.
benefit from that more. Adam,
Mustafa, the other thing is, this happens over time. This is such an iterative process that, you know, and sometimes when we don't manage lessons right away, they'll come back. They come back and we get another chance.
Adam asks, what are your suggestions for new research areas and topics in experiential learning? I think yesterday morning, Adam, we talk about this. There is a general tendency to focus only the classification of learning styles or implementing learning styles to different target groups so far. But then there is an increasing amount of research to applying experiential learning as a whole, as a theory whole in different contexts. As for example, Kay working on this teamwork, or if you have time, maybe you can mention about, I know that you're applying to coaching framework, also experiential learning. So I think what my suggestion can be, please go to bibliography, see the clear picture, but then try to, still you can work on learning styles. It's great, but not only styles. I mean, we can use styles, but I think our research should focus more holistic contexts. This can be my suggestion.
Well, and follow your curiosity. If you have something that really interests you, think about the ways in which experiential learning might inform. And, you know, again, with learning styles, it is an important part. So we don't want to throw out learning styles. No. It's a piece of the puzzle, but not the entire model or theory at all.
It is a must puzzle. I mean, it's a very important part. Without experiential learning, without learning styles, I think it's really missing. We don't understand the whole concept, all this flexibility of being whole, this dialectics. But as you said, experiential learning theory is much more bigger. Seda,
I haven't found a way of increasing self-awareness on an ongoing basis, though. Learning styles can just inform so much and help all of us to become more flexible and whole people. Becoming, as you said.
It's all, I mean, it's 52, we are really, but last question, Seda is our also friend, colleague, also the speaker in the previous panel. As the institute, this question is to you, Kay. What kind of instruments do you use for dissemination of experiential learning? And do you have any studies on the countries that using experiential learning in formal education properly? Like any study for formal education, in which countries, in which position?
Oh my goodness, there's more studies coming out all the time. Let me curate a few studies. I will tell you that we are actually interested in translating the team learning report as well to other contexts. So if you have any interest, if anybody has any interest in that way, come to Mustafa to talk about that. But studies on others, you know, Australia, Singapore
is doing great.
We just had a program in Singapore that was quite a remarkable experience for us as educators. But Singapore, Australia, and South Africa, I think too, are really focusing on what used to be soft skills. We're trying not to use that language anymore, but really making experiential learning, lifelong learning, student services, and these kind of co-curricular activities in higher ed, a central part of the academic experience. And so I would encourage you to look at those. Singapore and Australia first come to mind.
I think it's worth to mention the name Parminder, right?
Oh, Parminder.
Education setting. Okay.
Parminder.
So I'm in the chat section. I'm just adding the web page of. So Disha in the education. So it's
He's amazing. Now that's not higher ed, but in an educational setting, he has created schools that embody experiential learning in everything. They create expeditions for the children and put them in communities and in the context of their community to learn. So it's quite extraordinary. Yeah,
great.
very. It's been such a pleasure. And I'm happy if anybody else has questions about, you know, how we've implemented and what we're trying to do and how we want to be part of everything too. So please link us in to initiatives and we'll do the same really when we have new things. And it's wonderful to collaborate. I feel like I've learned so much by being with you.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a great honor. It was a great pleasure, really. I'm sure our participants enjoyed the session as well. So I would like to close with one comment from one of our participants, Meltem Kaya, in the chat section. She says, I would like to share another inspiring sentence. Ms. Kolb said, experiential learning is an ongoing process of becoming. Yes, we are all on the journey of becoming and meeting with people in the world like who are in the ongoing process of becoming like Kay. And when they accompany your journey or you accompany their journey of becoming, this is really very inspiring, empowering relationship. So Kay, thank you not only for being in this closing panel, but also thank you for accompanying our ongoing process of becoming. I'm very glad to meet you and definitely we'll do great jobs, great things in the future and in the future of experiential learning.
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you. It's an honor to be with you. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much. It's just been inspiring for me as well.
So dear participants, thank you all the organizing team, all my colleagues who did great jobs in other rooms with all these cables and making broadcast and, you know, lights, you know, you're just seeing this Zoom screen, but there is a lot of human power behind all this story. I'm really thankful. And also thank you for you not joining our Congress, and hope to meet you in the next Congress next year, hopefully in physical, if not virtually, but we will be there. So with these words, we're closing the Experiential Learning Congress and see you soon. Stay experiencing. Hey, take care. Thank you very much.
Mustafa, you just demonstrated connection before content. Thank you.
Yes, because we are imagining. We are Northerns. Ciao, okay. See you. I'm closing the session. Bye-bye.
Bye.